All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for our debut of the Business Corner for LinkedIn. I really want to send out my thanks to Oliver Laham for joining me for my debut video. If you don't know Oliver, Oliver is very big on LinkedIn. He's a certified project manager. He's also a certified project manager instructor and has been recognized by PMI on several different occasions for several different awards, including volunteering throughout the year for project management, mentorship, and other things regarding the project management process. So, Oliver, with that introduction, would you like to say a little bit about yourself?
Very good, and thank you for allowing me to be here and for talking with me. And it's a pleasure and an honor to be here. And I'm waiting for your questions, Joshua.
Okay, so a lot of your discussions and threads come up about project business management, which is different than project management in certain ways. So I would like to give you my interpretation of what the differences are, and then if you could follow up with that. So with project management, you're usually dealing with internal customers to your own company. So you're dealing with your own software divisions or your own construction units or other types of things. When it comes to project business management, though, you're dealing more with outside companies. So your contractors, for example, or other businesses that you need to engage in order to have your project go according to plan. Is that a fairly good layman's term?
It's valid, but it's part of it. First of all, just for the start, I dislike the term internal customer. As a model, this is something you can use, that you say, yeah, we have several departments and one department has to deliver something to another department. So one is the internal provider, the other one is the internal customer, and so on. As a model, you can do that, but it's not reality. It has as much to do with reality as a model railway with real railway. A real customer is a person or an organization or whatever you like, a group, that helps you bring money home, that pays you for your work. And this internal customer does not bring money into the organization. If you have a charging system, you have money running around in the organization, but actually it's funny money. It's play money. It's not really the money that helps the organization to survive and to develop and to grow. It is more a technicality inside the organization. When I talk about customers, I mean real customers who pay. They're in one organization and they pay another organization or an individual maybe. They pay for deliveries of products or for services that they receive, or for a mix of the two. So when I say customer, I mean a real customer, not a model customer, an actual one. Project business management is mostly about two groups in here. One group is just these customers. We have companies that procure the majority of project work, maybe an entire project to someone else, which in the past has not been fully understood what it means. We have some sections of procurement management in the PMBOK guide, but that's more the understanding of an extended workbench. You do most of the work internally, and from time to time, you buy something from outside, from whatever reason. So in this understanding, as a project manager, you have to justify, why do I go outside? Why do I buy this from outside the organization? Project business management refers more to those organizations where, as a project manager, you have to justify when you do it by yourself. Organizations where it is considered normal, there is a vendor for that. We make this vendor the contractor, take the organization or the person under contract, and then do it together with this organization, or let them do it for us. That's the two options we have. And this vendor, by the way, who is now the contractor, can become a prime contractor. Prime contractor means they do the same, they make the same decision and hand out work to subcontractors. And the subcontractors may have subcontractors. What is developing here are big and highly complex and very dynamic supply networks. And what I see is there is a shortage of factual knowledge of what it means to have such a supply network, project supply network work for you. We have all this knowledge in other areas. We have areas such as production and services where they have supply chains, and these supply chains are well engineered and managed. And a supply chain manager knows what his third or fourth tier contractor will do in 2 months' time or so. It's all well engineered. They have education for that. They have standards for that. They have research for that and everything, certifications. Now, if you look into the world of project business management from a customer perspective, we have nothing of that. And we are meanwhile in a similar situation. More is getting procured than in the past. This is measurable. I have data for that. And the other thing is the supply networks get more complex, get more often opaque. You don't really know who is there and how many organizations are there. And it's getting very, very dynamic what is happening in there. Things change, the relationships change. So that's one thing as a project manager in your procurement process. The process is far more complex than what we have in PMBOK Guide and similar documents. But there's also the other side. The other side is the side of the contractor. On the contractor side, you also have project managers. If you think of a project where a customer has a supply network of 6 contractors, this means you have one project manager who works with these contractors, who has an internal project that is handed out, but you have 6 project managers working for this project. And these project managers, they have a much, much different job to what we normally see in project management. The difference is that they have to manage a profit center. Their project has 3 big goals. One is, of course, the happy customer. The happy customer is the future of the organization. But there's another goal, and that's profitability. And the other one is liquidity. Liquidity is a very dangerous thing when you do projects, customer-facing projects, or we call it just customer projects, simpler. When you're in customer projects, liquidity is often the bigger problem. The project as such may be profitable, but you get the money very late from the customer. So most of the time, you lay out money for the customer. The project is in a loss situation, maybe over months. And the last payment of the customer turns it into a profit. By the way, what happens if the last payment doesn't come up? If, from whatever reason, you don't get the money or get it later again, much later. So this time aspect of payments is also a very important one. And at the moment, no one apart from us, me and the Project Business Foundation, apart from us, no one is really dealing with this topic. And another interesting thing is this is a big economical factor what we are talking about. Project business for some countries is the economical factor number 2, directly after agriculture. When they do industrial projects, they do it for someone else, and most are done as projects, not as standing operations. So we're not talking about a fringe topic. We are not talking about something which is somewhat exotic or so. This is big business. This is big money, what we see here. And no one helps people develop a professionalism in that. And that's our job. That's the job that we have.
So it seems like there's a lot of risk involved in this aspect of project management, simply because you have several risks. One, as you said, you can have up to 6 different project managers that have been subbed out or have been acquired for this particular build, right? Overall, there has to be a head project manager that those people report to for the overall governance of the project. And then we have another risk factor, which is revenue. Unlike the government, and I'm using this just simply because it's the easiest one, unlike the government that can throw another $100 million at a project. In the US, let's take the F-35 jet fighter, for instance, right? If Boeing if this was a private company that went to Boeing and said, I need this type of a jet, and I have a budget of $300 billion, then, Boeing has to make a plane within the $300 billion budget. It's not like if they get to 350 billion and Boeing goes, we need more money. It's not like the company can just come up like the government can with another $50 billion and go, here's another $50 billion to finish your work. So you are right. There's a lot of risk when it comes to managing these types of projects. And I don't think, and I do believe you're correct, that there are a lot of businesses that aren't prepared for this. My first job, I worked as it was a small-time contractor, and we did, basic contracting work, right? And we would have an initial deposit phase, and then we would have a couple of draw phases throughout the course of the project. Would it be a good idea for companies that do this type of work to start setting up intermittent draw periods when they reach certain milestones in the project, just as a way to help I think cash flow is a very good term to use here, to help with the cash flow and revenues, the cash flow streams that are coming in and out of various projects. And the reason I say this, and you can agree or disagree, is that most of the time these companies have more than just one project going on. They might have 6 or 7 projects going on, and they can't afford to outlay hundreds of millions of dollars and not have revenue come in. So do you agree that it's kind of crucial to build in payment stops after certain milestones are reached?
I think the payment stops are already one step too far to me. We're talking about risks, and actually you're 100% right. Project business management means high-risk business, managing high-risk business for all parties involved, for customers, contractors, subcontractors, and so on. It's high-risk business for all of them. By the way, the 6 project managers also include 6 different business interests. That's part of this risk. Conflicts because they may have different business interests, and also 6 opportunities one organization may just go bankrupt. It's also a risk. It's part of the risk. One goes bankrupt and the others suffer from that. So we have high risk business. And when we do risk management, the first thing is we need to identify risk. We need to understand them. The question how to manage them, like having something like a gate review to make sure that we're not going too much into outlays for the customer, lay out too much money that we may get late back, or too late maybe, or maybe get back not at all. I think that's already one step beyond that. That's already the risk response. First, we have to fully understand what these risks are, and that's where I see the problems really begin, because companies are not used to look at the risks. It's more something like, this is all project fear. We don't want to talk about that. We'll have a happy customer and make everything right for the customer, and then the other things will somehow sort themselves out. And they don't sort themselves out. We have to actively sort themselves out. So we have to be prepared. What are the things that could come up to us? I had a talk just 3 hours ago with a guy from a software company. We talked precisely about the same thing, and I made him aware there is no software for portfolio management of customer projects. These are also portfolios. And as you correctly said, it's not just one project, it's a lot of these projects. Companies have to understand how their cash flow and their liquidity, how they are connected with each other. If the cash flow over all these projects is just outflow, 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 and not enough money comes back, then at one point in time, they may go bankrupt. Even with profitable projects, more companies go bankrupt because of problems with liquidity, with cash flow in the end, than with profitability. So what companies need is software for that. And I hope I impressed him. This company may go into this direction. But it's an interesting question, because there is no software out there in the market for that. If you look at project management software, what do we have? It's all for internal projects. Nothing for companies who have to run a project as a profit center.
That is true. Most of the project management software that I have seen, and I've reviewed several of them. They're only there to track WBS elements. They're there to track, risks and risk management and the typical things that we see in the PMBOK guide. But there really, like you said, there really isn't anything that tracks an external project. There's nothing that tracks, what somebody else is doing. And you are right. You are right. And I've, being the short time I was in the construction industry, I saw this a lot. You would have a builder, right? And the builder has an outflow of cash.
Yes.
He has 6 or 7 different subcontractors working for him. And there are different phases of which he has to build the house in. So he has to the framers have to go in first, and they have to frame the house, and then it has to pass inspection. Once it passes inspection, he can begin the dry in, and once the dry in's done, then he can move on to electrical and all the internal stuff. The problem, but I have seen it where the electrician, on the other hand, has competing interests because he has 10 other electrical projects that he's doing. And if this project over here, let's say I'm supposed to be over here at this house in a week's time, but I have 4 other houses over here that I can start now and get paid on versus this house over here. Guess which houses I'm going to and the house I'm not going to. I'm going to these other 3 houses. I'm not going to your house. And now I've pushed your house out 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah. And when you call me complaining about it, I'm going, I don't have the guys right now.
Yeah.
All my guys are busy.
They're on the other project.
They're on the other project, but I'm not telling you they're on the other project. I'm just saying my guys are busy right now. Of course not. So
of course not.
You are 100% correct. And now as a builder, I've outlaid all of this money for all of these other materials, and I can't. And unlike other businesses with construction, they do regular draws against the construction loan, but I can't draw against the construction loan because I haven't met my criteria to draw against the construction loan, and the bank won't let me do it. So I think you're right. I think there is a great need to manage these types of external projects, especially when we get into situations where we have contractors, a lot of subcontractors.
Do you allow me to share my screen?
Sure, go right ahead.
I have something. This is from an article I published last month. I hope you can see it. And
yes, I can.
This is a basic model for the cost revenue calculation, profit loss calculation of a contractor company, which has various projects for probably various customers. So in my example, they have 4 projects. Each of these projects brings money home. These are the revenues that they get from the projects. And now look what they all have to finance with that. First of all, of course, the direct costs of the projects. What does it cost us to do the project for the customer? Often, by the way, these are the layouts that we do for the customer. But then we have something more. We have to win new business. This also costs money. This is not free. We need to put people into that, and maybe consultancies and others who help us to win the business. There are training companies for that and everything that help us do that. And then we have as a company, we have our own G&A costs, of course, for our offices and for insurances that we have to pay and all those things. And if you look at these costs, then project managers are in a profit-oriented project, in a profit center. They are not aware of this all. Most of them will not even look at the revenues. They will just say, hey, I'm a project manager. This is not my business. This is someone else's business. But if they understand that this is about their job security, this is about their future in the organization, that they care about it, about the profit center character of the project. They are the managers of profit centers. So they have to look at that. And they also have to look at the contribution that their projects give to pay these other costs here, then I think they will do a better job for their own company, because they understand the full picture and not just the little delivery that they have to make at the moment. And I tried to bring this topic into the more traditional associations, and had some talk done there, and held some presentations on that. But somehow no one was really interested in that. So we started our own thing, me and some enthusiasts with whom I work together and who are very much supportive of what we do here. But that's the world that the contractor is in. And that's part of what we do. That's 50%. That's the 50% of the contractor side. And the other side is how to manage project supply networks, complex project supply networks. And meanwhile, I would say we learned a lot of things here. I have been in this topic now as intensive as I do it now for about 3 years. And I learned so much. The learning is not over, but I learned so much what you can do to improve situations, to help organizations that are in crisis here, getting out of crisis, to find solutions, not really new solutions, for them they are new, that help them get out of the problem. The problem is very simple here. What happens when costs is higher than revenues? And the other big question, by the way, what is when the revenues come tomorrow, but the costs come today? These are the two big things. And then we need a happy customer. Some tell me, Oliver, it's enough to have a happy customer. That's all, that the rest will sort out itself. No, it will not, because if you're running out of money, you will no more be able to make the customer happy. You don't have the money for that. You don't have the assets, the resources to do that. So we need to be profitable, not only to survive, but also to be able to make the customer happy. Yeah. Otherwise, we will start with shortcuts and cut corners somewhere and botched solutions just to save money, and the customer will suffer from that as well. And in most cases, customers notice that.
Yep, I think you bring up another really good point when it comes to project management, and that is a lot of project managers don't realize that their budgets come from the revenue stream that the project is overtaking. So if I have a bid for say a $50 million project, right? That's the total revenue of the project, right? $50 million. That's how much money the company's going to earn once we complete the project, and over the course of years of other things, we're going to earn $50 million. And let's say the project manager is given a budget of $10 million to do the project. Well, that $10 million is coming out of the $50 million that we're going to earn over the course and lifetime of that contract. And I think there's some not negligence, maybe it's misunderstanding is a better word, from the project management side of the finances of funding this project. They go, oh, 10 million, okay, we can do it. And then when they get into a situation, whether it was due to either a bad requirements, missed things on the risk analysis that didn't get done in the gap analysis, and then it comes back and the project's now at $15 million instead of $10 million. And now as a project manager, we have to go to the board of directors, and we have to go to the CFO, and we have to explain to them and try and justify a $5 million undercosted project. And not only that, but now we've lowered our profitability, our revenue. I won't say revenue, but it really affects our profit.
I would call it margin at this point, because
the margin
is this little bit on top here. This is profit.
And now we've lowered our
from here
profit
to here.
margin.
What we have here is the margins of the 4 projects. They add up. They add up to this here. This is margins, but out of these margins, we still have to pay 2 groups of costs.
Right. So now we've lowered our profit margin that we were going to make by a considerable amount. That's missed money that could have been directed to either another project or winning new business. But now that money's gone. It's been spent on either time, material, labor, uh, whatever it may be to fix or not just to fix, but to complete the project to the customer's liking.
Mhm.
And this kind of segues into another thing really well too. I think project managers on general, we're supposed to be the guardians of the project. We're the guardians of the project. We're the guardians of the scope. And I think a lot of times companies in general are too concerned about saying yes rather than saying no. And from a project management standpoint, I think we need to be more on the no side of things rather than the yes side. While yes makes for very happy customers, if I'm a customer and I go, I want this and I want that and I want this and I want that, and all I hear is yes, 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 it makes me very happy as a customer. But from a project management side of things, it makes me a very sad project manager because that's driving up the scope, it's driving up the cost, it's driving up the time, and all of those lower not only the success of my project, but it lowers the profitability of the project as well.
And maybe the ability to make this customer truly happy, because you cannot afford it anymore. What you can just afford is to meet the basic requirements, but not those things that really bring the smile on the face of the customer, that make the customer be proud on that and say, hey, look what this company did for me, and I want to go with them again, and I want to tell my friends on the golf court what this company is able to do, because I'm so proud that I'm their customer. You don't get that when you're doing poorly in money, in profitability, because you don't have the money to pay for this smile. The smile is expensive. There's a very expensive smile, of course. Yeah, and that's something project managers have to understand. If your project is a profit center and you are the project manager, then you are the project manager of a profit center. So the question how this project contributes to profit, to the profit of the organization, should be your topic. And in the past, project managers could say, oh, I don't care about that. I make a software project, and if the software is okay, then everything else is okay too. Today, the number of jobs is going down. The number of people applying for the jobs is not going down. We are in a situation of crisis. Crisis has somewhat positive aspects. And one is that it separates the very good people from the average people and from the poor people again. And I think that companies that have such business, on one side, they can choose. They can be very choosy and say, we want those people who not only know how to make software, but who know how to run a profit center that is developing software. And the other thing is, they need that. If they don't get that, if they don't have that, they may not survive. They are also dependent on that. So they need project managers who understand the project management side, but also the commercial side. And there's a third side that we should not forget here, and that's the legal side. The very, very worst case that we have, and it happens, the very worst case is this ends at court. There may be some litigation of a customer against the contractor against the customer, and so on. There are some conflicts that cannot be resolved in negotiation or in alternative dispute resolution, so it ends at court, which again means we need some basic knowledge in legal things. Otherwise, as project managers, we will make mistakes that make our life later very, very hard at court. By the way, number one of those mistakes is not enough documentation. We know we are right, but we cannot prove it. We don't have evidence for that. And a court wants to see evidence. So that's one of those things. The other thing is to understand basic principles of legal questions. And to make things worse, it could well be that our customer and our contractor are in different countries. So if you, as an American company, do a project under German law, where I am, or vice versa, we need to have an understanding of this other law, a very basic understanding. We will never be the experts in that, but we have to understand what are the differences to our home law so that we don't make mistakes, things that seem appropriate at home, but are not appropriate at the place where this contract is located and where, in worst case, a court case may happen. So you have to have some very basic understanding of contract law. And that's also something people don't have. They don't even understand the own contract law. If I speak with Americans, do you know what are in the US the basic aspects of a contract? What turns an agreement into a legally binding and enforceable contract? The majority doesn't know that. In Germany, it's a bit simpler to understand. We have less rules here, but I would say it's the same thing. When I ask my students, do you know what constitutes a contract? They sit there and some know, but it's a minority who really knows it. And to make things even worse, most project managers in customer projects on both sides, customers and contractors, don't even know the contract. When they have a problem, the first thing should be that either they know where to find it in the contract or they look into the contract. They don't do that. They don't check the contract for that. The contract is our project document number one when we work under contract. That's number one. That's more important than any other document because we don't want to be in breach of contract. So we have to understand what is aligned with contract, in compliance with contract, and what is in breach with contract. We need to know that. And too many project managers don't even know the contract. Maybe it was never given to them. I see this often enough. They never see the contract. Or it was given to them. They never read it. Yeah, they don't have the time for that. They have to come with quick wins. Yeah, we need very, very quickly in the next 2 weeks our first minimum viable product or whatever it is, and they don't have the time to read the contract. They don't know what is in there. Then a third group, they were given the contract, read it, and didn't understand a word in that. Particularly, in American contracts. American contracts are much more difficult to read than German contracts. Yeah. Yeah. They didn't understand what it says, and no one helps you. And then the last one is they were given the contract, they read it, they understood it, and forgot it. So many things happen every day in a project. You don't know all these details anymore. But this is your number one document. This is the document you have to deal with, and these are the rules of the game. So you have to understand that. And we have many things that need a lot of education, and it begins not so much with gates and so on. It begins with understanding where are the big risks. And to me, one of the primary risks is the project managers don't know the contract. And again, on all sides. This is true on customer side. This is true on contractor side. It may well be the side where the project manager knows the contract better than the other one, may in a worst case litigation, may be the one who wins at court because they know the contract. That's all.
I agree. I'm glad you brought up the legal side of it because, in my company, we deal with Germany and we deal with several other countries around the globe. And I know we have a very dedicated legal department. And when you get into projects this size, and even for small companies that do minor contracting, I think it's very important to understand the legality of the contract and the agreement that you're getting into. And you are right, because if you don't manage the contract, because there is a contract risk, right? There is a contract risk in which, as a project manager, you can find yourself in breach of that contract. You might come upon it, and I've seen and heard of examples where customers have come and they've gone, well, this is in the contract, this is in the contract, this is in the contract, this is in the contract. So where is it?
What?
And what do you mean, right? What do you mean it's in the contract? It says right here that you will do this. And I think it's important from an organizational standpoint that whoever the project manager is going to be for this project, that they're brought into a contract overview, and they have the experts and the legal team and everybody else to sit through the contract review, so that everybody around the table understands exactly where the contract sits and what's required in the contract.
Yeah. But the other thing, when you have these legal teams, is who has the hat on, who sits in the pilot seat. Yeah? And I think it always has to be the project manager. I like the idea of having support from a legal team very much. That's a very important thing. You can't do it alone. But who is really the boss in this room if you want to have something like a boss? The project manager is the person in the end who is responsible for compliance with law, compliance with the contract, for delivering the right thing. So you have the overall responsibility and accountability for that. So you should be the person who has the final word when it comes to discussions. And legal people are very, very welcome here. And by the way, when we buy something, the same thing is with the purchasing department. Purchasing people are welcome in the team. When we sell project services and products to customers, the salespeople are welcome in the team, of course. When we have to hire people for the project, HR people are welcome in the team. How often do I see it that they take over the project almost, that they do HR without regard of what the project needs, just follow their processes and their concepts and their ideas in procurement, in sales, in HR, and whatever it is. The responsibility, the final responsibility, the accountability should always be with the project manager, but the others are, of course, welcome to the team.
I fully agree with that. I said I would only take up about 15 to 30 minutes of your time, and I've taken up almost 45 minutes of your time.
Oh.
This is what happens when we have really good discussions and really intelligent discussions and engaging discussions. Time tends to fly by more than what we considered. Oliver, if you have any last minute thoughts or last minute comments, I would love to hear what those are.
There's one last minute thought, and that's, I'm always very much concerned about young people brought into project management. And I think of my own history, just thrown into the cold water and someone said swim. They didn't even say swim. It was just very deep and I had to swim. That's what I see very often. I would recommend to young people who are brought into this discipline, including internal projects, internal and customer projects, both sides, to put some kind of to pressure, but to ask strongly for a good preparation for the job. You take over responsibility and you have to know how to do that. You should know in this moment what is expected from a project manager. What are the skills? What are the tools, techniques, the mindsets, whatever it is, the approaches, the behaviors. What is it what we need in project management to be successful? And I think that's a very important thing, particularly for young people who often get really burned in projects. And what I see is they get burned in a way that destroys the two most important assets that you have to build as a young person. One thing is your CV. It doesn't look good if you are in a company for 6 weeks and then get fired again, and this was in a project. One thing is the CV. The other thing, maybe even more important, is your self-esteem, your confidence that you're able to do that, because in many projects where young people are in, they have no chance for success. I'm now 63. I see that. I think this cannot work what they do there. And they are aware of that. They know it. These people get really burned. So if you're young, please be careful what assignments you accept and ask for good preparation with a good trainer, maybe with a mentor, with a coach, whatever is helpful to you. But ask for a good support for you. Otherwise, you may get destroyed in a project.
I fully agree with that. I think that when it comes to project management, along with and some other disciplines as well, that an organization that has a strong mentorship program or training program for upcoming project managers is key, not only to the success of the person, but to the success of the company and the contracts that they will produce later on. So, Oliver, I want to thank you for your time. It was great. It was great finally getting to meet you and talk with you. I will be posting this on my new YouTube channel and I'll post it on LinkedIn. Please like it and subscribe it, pass it off to all of your friends. And I just want to say thank you again. And I hope that you have a great day and a great weekend.
Thank you very much, Joshua. It's a pleasure to be with you and much success with your program that you are building here at the moment. I think it will be interesting for me as well to see the future contributors to that and see how this thing develops over time. Thank you very much.
Thank
Goodbye.
you. Bye.